From Down Under.
Do or do not. There is no try.
G'day, mate. How you going? All right there, Fantha Trackers. How you going? This is Adam O'Brien coming to you live from Gold Coast in Australia. Joining me from the other side of the world is the amazing Star Wars author and now Marvel author, the one, the only Adam Bray. Mate, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming back. I want to say, first of all, Happy New Year. It's 2019, mate. Isn't that great?
Yeah, thanks. It's really breezing by here. It's been a chilly start. We've had negative 20, negative 22 below 0 Fahrenheit here the last few nights. So I'm missing springtime.
Springtime's the best anywhere in the world, isn't it? It really is. You
get
that calm weather, you know. You get beautiful nights, just the right temperature to sleep, and of course, just warm enough in the daytime to go out and enjoy a bit of a stroll out in the wild.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And of course, right now, you guys have got that Hoth weather, haven't you?
What's that?
You got weather like Hoth.
Yeah, it's actually snowing right now.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't get out much during the winter. I just kind of wait for it all to melt.
So do you guys like in that environment have to put is it the chains on the tires to get some traction in the snow and stuff?
Yeah, I don't, because I try not to go out when it's that bad. But yeah, a lot of family and people I know put them on, and they've got the snow plows on front of their vehicles and stuff. So yeah, it's like Hoth here.
It really is, isn't it? And it's interesting, as we've talked about in a previous show, most of my family comes from a cold place in Australia called Tasmania. And in Tassie, it's interesting. The weather down there can be both hot and cold at the same time. It's the only place in Australia you can actually have a Christmas in the snow, because Mount Wellington, which overlooks Hobart itself, so the southernmost city.
Right.
Beautiful mountain. You can go winding road, go right up to the top, the same week as Christmas. And you go up the top there, and it's still got fairly lush snow on the top. And you can go up to the cabins up there, start a fire and stuff like that to keep yourself warm. But the great thing about it is you can actually go up there and actually make a snowman in Christmas time.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? But, that sort of temperature. But you guys get to do that.
What's that?
You guys get to do that with that fantastic snow weather in Christmas, though.
Yeah, we do. We have pretty nice Christmases here. I've done Christmas in New Zealand a couple of times.
Oh, wow.
In Wellington. And that's kind of weird because there's some decorations and lights, but not very much. And I don't recall much Christmas music or anything. But I didn't see any Christmas trees or, much presents or, it's because it's down there. It's all about, it's a beach holiday. Everybody goes to the beach for Christmas and has a barbecue with their friends and some beers.
Yep.
And actually it's very quiet, especially in the city, because everyone's away on holiday, and I stayed pretty much in town. So yeah, it's kind of quiet and lonely and a little bit depressing if you're not used to that. But New Zealand is always great, so I was glad to be there.
Yeah, that pretty much nails what Australia and New Zealand holidays are like at that time too. A perfect example is out here on the Gold Coast. We have what we call the Esplanade, which has got beaches and local parks and stuff like that. And if you're out Christmas Eve, in particular, you'll find people starting to reserve those little public picnic tables and stuff like that, and even just where the barbecues are. And they'll get there as early as like 1 o'clock in the morning, or maybe 2 or 3, because this is how popular it is. And they'll line up and they'll go, right, this is ours. Put the esky on top, or as they say in New Zealand, the chili bin. And they put that on the top there, and they'll just wait. And by the 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, where I do my morning walk, there's got to be close to about 150 people already on the beach getting set up for the family to come down. And that's mainly because the government out here have now got free barbecues. So you used to have to put your quarters or your money in to fire up these barbecues for about 5 minutes. But the government out here said, no, we're going to get people out of their houses, off the iPhones, which I think is the great thing, getting families back out being social. I just think it's fantastic. Yeah, it's great. It's a great thing to see. Yeah, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. And believe it or not, there was a little bit of Star Wars involved out there too, because they had some of the costuming groups out there with a Darth Vader outfit, but with the, I think it was like the cape at least was in a Christmas sort of spirit. So very, very interesting. Darth Santa.
Oh, I've not seen a Darth Santa before. That'd be interesting.
Kind of goes against what it is to be Sith, I suppose. You know, you're getting in the holiday spirit there. But I've got to say, what's interesting about that is that Star Wars can be adapted to almost any theme when it comes to that stuff. Where, you know, people just got to put their minds to it. Right,
yeah. There's so many mashups I've seen now. Some of the comic conventions are good for that. I know there's a Stormtrooper Muppet Brigade that goes around a lot of the conventions that I've seen. They've got Stormtrooper bodies, but Muppet heads.
Oh, wow.
They look really spot on, so it's kind of funny to see.
It's kind of interesting when you think about it, because Muppets is almost unofficially Star Wars, with Hanson having Frank Oz there, obviously, and you know it's Yoda. You know,
right? Yeah, and Disney owns the Muppets too, because Hanson sold them to him. So, yeah, I remember on social media a couple of years ago, everybody at Lucasfilm I noticed was randomly talking about the Muppets. So I took it as a possible hint that, because it was all over Twitter, it wasn't conversations as much as people just randomly.
Yeah.
And that's the funny thing when you follow a lot of people and you can see trends in what they're talking about. Sometimes you can get a hint at what's coming up. So I wondered if maybe there was going to be a crossover of some kind, and there still could be. Could have been there was a proposal or brainstorming, or it could have just been that maybe they showed one of the Muppet movies at Lucasfilm in the theater or something. But when I see those things, it makes me wonder.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, Muppets itself, I think goes hand in hand with Star Wars. Particularly, you go back to the Pigs in Space episode where Mark turns up, and I thought they were great back in the day, and I think we picked it up a couple of years ago when it was released on DVD, and those episodes are golden. I mean, they're just a lot of fun.
Yeah, I've seen a couple of years ago. I watched a few episodes, and they were really a high production quality for the time, and even now they ones I saw they still stood up. They didn't age. That's one of the things about the good, really good practical work, and puppet work. It doesn't necessarily age the same way that digital does, because we can kind of get mesmerized by the new technology, because we haven't seen it before. But you wait a few years and that digital stuff looks pretty flat. As to be honest, I hadn't watched The Phantom Menace full all the way through. Just sat down and watched the whole thing in a few years. I would watch a few clips here and there to search for something for my research. But over the holidays, I sat down and watched it, and I realized, that some of that digital work hasn't aged very well. There's spots that are really good. I think the pod racing is still pretty good, but some of the battle droid stuff, it's looking really flat and two-dimensional now.
Yeah, it doesn't... I'm trying to think of the word. I always think of it in terms of volume.
Yeah.
So if you're holding something up, you obviously can see straight at like you say, 2D almost.
Right.
But the color, maybe the rendering doesn't have that volume when you turn something around 3D wise. But it's interesting you mentioned that, because we're talking about that on another show I do, where we're talking about basically the 80s and the advent of all these, puppetry and stuff like that was done. Well, obviously, Muppets being probably one of the highest points, but also, the work of Dark Crystal and... this is all pretty much Henson anyway, because you've got Frank Oz involved too. But the other one was some of the effects work done with creature work, so things like Rob Bottin on The Thing, and his work on, was it Total Recall, if I remember right, and also I think he did... What was the other one? Robocop, I think, if I remember right. But it's, again, that sort of stuff. I rewatched some of those on Blu-ray, which, doesn't hide anything. You can see everything in HD, and still tricks my eye probably better than any CGI.
It, some of it still holds up. So some of it doesn't, but some of it's still pretty good.
Oh, definitely.
And I have a lot of friends, especially that I made in New Zealand, that are in digital and like Weta Digital, and they'll talk to me about various movies, new ones, that come and go, and how some of them are still better than others that are coming out. Some are going to hold up for a long time, and some of the new movies just aren't, because it all depends on the budget and the time and who you hire to do it. So we're getting even now we're getting blockbuster movies in theaters that are of very mixed qualities. And one of the other things is there's so much digital in some movies that they're hiring. It's not just one company, that'll work on a movie. It's not just Industrial Light and Magic or Weta Digital. It's 10, 15, 20 different digital production houses, each doing different shots in the film. And so some of them will be better and some of them will be worse, and they don't always match up. I've noticed my eye in different parts of a movie, it's like, well, this scene's better, but it's not really working, and this other scene, it's because you've got different companies contributing to the film due to budget and time constraints. So
definitely,
we get a mixed bag even now.
We do, and it's it's interesting. It's in TV and film now. I mean, TV now with not just the streaming shows, but a lot of the high end stuff. Like I suppose, you move on to things like Star Trek Discovery, which is a lot of CGI involved in that, which is pretty polished from what I've seen of it. But even going back to the early 2000s, and we had a Jim Henson production out here in Sydney called Farscape. And
I love Farscape.
I'm glad to hear you say that, mate. It's one of my favourites too. It's such a funny show too. Like the characters weren't just I suppose in terms of Star Wars clear cut. It was a little bit, and even Star Trek. It's not like Star Trek either. When you got such characters where they blurred the lines quite a bit, but the effects work was done, I think, by Australia's Animal Logic, which worked on the Matrix films. But again, a lot of that was outsourced too, because they had to think about are they going to be able to get all those shots done?
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, I love that show so much, and. It was great. It was extremely creative, extremely different. It was unlike anything else. I mean, you could draw comparisons to Star Trek or Star Wars, but it was really different. It was its own thing.
Yeah.
The creature work was all through every episode. And nothing like, Star Wars in that it was very bold in its own directions. It went its own ways. And, people talk about, inclusivity and, including girls and stuff. I mean, there was one season where it was like, 5 or 6 female characters in the main crew, and there was only 2 male characters, and only one of them was even human. So I mean, they very much a female balanced show, and it just did things that even 15 or more years ago, a lot of shows still aren't doing.
Oh, I agree.
I love it. And if I would rather have a Farscape show than a live action show than a Star Wars show, probably. As excited as I am about what's coming in Star Wars, I just love Farscape that much more.
There's been talks of a continuation, and I think it was because in the Peacekeeper Wars, if I remember right, that one was about the child of Eren and Sun and John Crichton, and there's always been talk that it would be, I can't remember whether it was a son or daughter from that one, because I only watched that portion or that mini-series once, but the only problem is no Cardago. Cardago died.
Yeah. Well, hopefully they can bring... I think, I haven't read the comics. I just read a few, but they're gorgeous. I think they did bring... I think they might have brought him back in the comics. I'm not sure.
That'd be good.
Yeah, I've heard some rumors that, the Henson Company they've really tried to hold on and do some new things. Of course, they're doing the new Dark Crystal show on Netflix, the series that's coming. I had talked to I forget her name, Henson's daughter at one of one of the conventions, and she said that they were working on a Labyrinth Broadway show when David Bowie died. That it was going to be with David Bowie, and they'd written a whole bunch of new songs, and I think they were working on the stage performance, practicing and whatever to get it going, and that was coming, but unfortunately David Bowie got sick and passed away. I hope they've got some recordings of that. I don't know that we'll ever see any of it, because I'm sure it would have been to imagine a full budget Broadway show. I'm sure it would have been incredible. But yeah, and there was I know they had a movie back 20 years ago, which unfortunately it was a big disappointment. Everybody thought it would be the next Labyrinth or Dark Crystal. I don't even remember what it was called, but they went a very digital route, and it just didn't do well. But they've been doing these things to try to, get the engine going again. And of course, the selling the Muppets was part of that to get some money. And they had a show on the Sci-Fi Network. I don't know if it was there in Australia, where Jim Henson's Creature Shop. Unfortunately, that only ran one season, where they had contestants try to build these creatures every week. Everybody would build a different creature and compete, and eliminate somebody each week till somebody won. But that was another effort. So they're doing all these things to kind of get back in the game. So I'm hopeful. They've had licensing. They've had Funko Pops and action figures for Labyrinth and Dark Crystal, and new Dark Crystal comics,
which I've got. They're fantastic.
I haven't read them, but they look good. I've heard we might get some more Farscape comics too. That might be getting started up again. So we'll see. I hope we get a show or a movie, but I'd really like a series. I think I think if Dark Crystal does really well, I think you could see a lot more from them. So let's hope.
Oh, fingers crossed. I mean, Farscape came out at the right time, I think. I think it was the year where we had I think it was the VHS release of Phantom Menace. I think that had just come out 6 months earlier or something like that. And everyone was like, wow, Channel 9 was the one that produced it out here. So it was Henson Company came out to Australia and they said, we need a TV station out here that can, first of all, give us the space we need to provide and the studio environment and all that sort of thing, which was down near it was the Fox lot, basically, back then, whatever it was. And, I mean, they've had, obviously, The Matrix in there and Star Wars prequels 2 and 3. And also, recently, the Alien movie no one wants to remember, Alien Covenant, was shot there too.
Right. Yeah.
But with Farscape out here, they really launched it strong. And one of the things was that they had the 2-hour pilot went out, and it was shown about 3 times in the same week. So it was shown on the Sunday night, and we all watched this and went, I thought at the time, being naive, I thought, well, this is a poor man's Star Trek, because I was watching it in between doing work at the time, and I was kind of like, well, what's going on here? Having no idea that what really it is an interesting take on Buck Rogers.
Right. Yeah, it is.
It really is. I mean, and then you get your first biological ship, the Moya, which I thought was a very, very interesting ship. And it was because at the time, I think it was the book. Just trying to think of the Star Wars. It might have been called Rogue Planet, maybe. I can't remember. It was a Greg Bear book, I think. But it was about Anakin and Obi-Wan a little bit after Episode 1, and they're sent to go and find a new type of ship. Anyway, but that won't coincide with the fact that there's this ship, there's a living sentient ship in Farscape. I thought, well, that's one of the most exciting, different ideas out there. And of course, you've got the pilot, and you've got the best character in it, Rigel.
I know, yeah. Oh, I love Rigel. I love a good stinker.
Isn't he?
Interested little poop. Selfish and self-serving. I loved him to death. He's kind of he's the Cartman of South Park. But he's just great. Of course, sadly, I don't know his name. The voice actor that played him passed away.
Yeah.
So if we see him again, when I hope we do, we'll have to have another voice actor cover him.
Definitely.
But yeah, I think in all honesty, it filled a little bit of a fandom void too, because it was during the prequel era when a lot of fans were disappointed with the Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones. And that's when Farscape came out. So it was something that a lot of people, a lot of fans latched onto because it was so completely different and very high. I think it had a high budget. I think that's partly why the Sci-Fi Channel eventually dumped it, because Sci-Fi Channel is great at starting awesome shows and then killing them. Because I think what happens is they just get the budget grows each season, but the viewership doesn't necessarily increase. For many shows, it gets harder to maintain as the seasons go on. But it was very high quality for TV, and that was right at the switch from the old square low definition, which I think the first season was. I don't know if it was the second season or the third season that switched to widescreen definition. It was one of the first shows to do that. Mm-hmm. There's a bit of a dramatic cinematography difference between the first half of the show and the second half.
Well, it's interesting too for us Australians. A lot of those locations that pop up here and there, straight away you go, hang on, I know that place. I've had a barbecue there. Or, they go, hey, I've walked down that street before. And there'd be certain scenes where Crichton would be doing something with maybe Scorpius, who was one of my favourite characters there.
Oh, yeah.
And again, of course, Wayne Pegram played a certain...
Tarkin.
Tarkin, yeah. How good is that?
Yeah. Oh, Scorpius, best villain.
Oh.
Yeah,
he really is. Unbelievable.
I love Scorpius. But yeah, there's a bunch of Australian actors in Farscape that have appeared in Star Wars. Mm-hmm. It's probably more than I know too. I know Scorpius is Lieutenant Baraka is second in command. I know he's in Star Wars. Maybe he's one of the first. Is he one of the First Order officers? I think.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's some of the ladies that play kind of background characters. I know they've been in Star Wars. I'm sure there's lots of extras and stormtroopers and aliens and things. That guy that was in Mad Max played one of the Powans in Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so he's been in all kinds of things. Of course, I don't know his name though.
Well, we also in Mad Max, Hugh Keys-Byrne, who plays Toe Cutter, the guy they talk about at the start, and we see a little bit later in the film, the main villain. He is one of the integral. I wouldn't call him a villain in Farscape, but he's one of the scientists working on stuff. Okay. And you see him in Peacekeeper Wars too, and he's got the old Toe Cutter look coming back. And of course, he played Immortan Joe, which is this character here. For folks listening tonight, I'm showing Adam as we speak the Funko Pop, which is actually quite funny. This one,
yeah.
I always thought it's a little bit like Darth Vader because he's he's still got the breathing apparatus and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, crazy, isn't it? Yeah, but again, he's been heavily involved in that show from about the second season, if I remember right. There's also a number of the agents working with Agent Smith in the Matrix that were also in Farscape as well, but I think a lot of it's probably episode 2 and 3 is probably where we saw quite a lot of the shapeshifter, Zam Wessel. She's in Farscape as well.
Oh yeah, yep, yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's one of the ones I was thinking of.
So they're all involved. But you know what's interesting? We talked about just before we came on air some of the states of collecting and what we like collecting and stuff. And I think that 99 to about 2000, maybe even 2001. Was interesting because Hasbro obviously come out of the dark ages of the dark times of not putting product out and taking over from Kenner, and then there's this basically gamut of different shows, different franchises trying to vie for attention, and one of them was Farscape. They went strong. They put a whole heap of figures out, and and they were actually quite good. I remember the Car Dargo being quite a good figure.
Yeah. I think I got them all too. I think maybe the only one I don't have is that last Aaron Sun in the Peacekeeper uniform, because she was kind of a special thing. Like she came in a box. All the others were on cards. And I think I was going overseas to live about the time she came out, so I didn't bother getting her. But I have all the others. I've never taken them out of the package as far as I know. I think they're still, I've got them in boxes in a closet that I haven't gotten out in forever. But yeah, they were great. I remember, I don't think they were very articulated though. I think the company that made them kind of specialized. They're kind of halfway between a figurine and like a action figure and a doll. They're sort of kind of in between, Yeah. And they've got. I know they like came with clothes, that you can put on. That I think that's cool, and lots of accessories. But the figures weren't very articulated as the Star Wars figures were for a while, and now not so much unless you get the vintage collection or the Black Series.
Oh, definitely. And it was interesting because you got that line, and I mean, even box office turkeys like Battlefield Earth went to try and battle up against Star Wars and obviously all these other franchises putting out stuff in 2000, and that was the ultimate peg warmer between that and maybe some of the not so great Star. I mean, Star Trek's had some good figures too, but nowhere near in the lines of this. And I think the other one was putting out quite a bit with Stargate.
Yeah. There was some stuff back then. There was it was a lot to choose from, and probably part of what hurt. They famously produced too many figures and a lot of other tie-in products for the Phantom Menace, and those hung on shelves forever and haven't really appreciated in value at all.
No, that's right.
I think you can still buy things mint in the package for not much more than what they sold for back 20 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah.
You know what's interesting, too, about that time? Bootlegs came back in a big way, particularly with Star Wars. And, you get from whether it's Germany, Poland, anywhere in the UK, that was big over there. But we're so close to Taiwan and Hong Kong, the stuff that was coming down to Australia from there. And believe it or not, I'll have to send you the pictures later to show you. But there's a Black Series one that's just been on the shelves. It's been there for a little bit. Hard to find because people still get conned into thinking that it's Black Series. Grab this 4-pack Black Series direct from Hong Kong. This is a one-of-a-kind. Collect all 4. Of course, they're talking about the package itself has got 4 figures. All right, I hope you've enjoyed this episode with Adam Bray joining us. And part 2 of his chat will be with us next Saturday here on Fantha Tracks Radio with me, your host, Adam O'Brien, for Fantha Tracks Down Under's. That's it, the one, the only, the Fantha from Down Under. And we'll be chatting a little bit more Star Wars and more for you, the Fantha Trackers. All right, have a great week and we'll catch you next week.